So, in our discussion, we're going to start with pronouns. So, we want to understand pronouns and how do we use them. So, when you are talking about pronouns, these are just words that stand in place of a noun. So, that is what we call a pronoun. Any word that is going to stand in place of a noun is called a pronoun. Examples of pronouns that we are able to talk about is she, he, it. These are some examples. So, for example, when you're talking about, let's say you're talking about Mwansa, you say, I really like Mwansa. Mwansa is great. Mwansa makes good music. Mwansa knows how to sing. So when you are speaking, that would not be necessary, like repeating this the name again and again, again and again. So instead of you saying, I like Mwansa, Mwansa knows how to make music, Mwansa is good, you say, I like Mwansa. He knows how to make English. He is good. So you are using he to stand in place of Mwansa. So that is a pronoun. So that is how we get to use pronouns. Instead of you getting to repeat the name of a person or a thing or a place unnecessary. So you are going to use a pronoun. And so there are different types of pronouns, and we are going to look at some of them. What are the types of pronouns? So we need to understand pronouns because when you are doing rewrites and you start repeating the same name, you'll be marked wrong. So you need to make sure that you don't get to repeat the name again and again. You need to use the right pronoun when you are writing rewrites. So the first type of pronoun is a personal pronoun. So what do we mean when we're talking about personal pronoun? So personal pronouns, these take the place of names of other people, ourselves, animals, and things. So personal pronouns, they take names of other people, ourselves, and just things. For example, I, we, you, she, and it. So personal pronouns, the one we can see here, they are used as subjects of a sentence. Now, when you're talking about a subject of a sentence, a sentence basically has got a subject, an object, and also a verb. So a simple sentence, you are going to see it having these things: subject, object, and a verb. So when you're talking about a subject is the doer of an action, and an object is a receiver of an action that is being done. Okay. For example, Mwansa kicked the ball. So in this sentence, Mwansa here is the one who is doing the action of kicking the ball. So Mwansa is the subject, and then the ball is the object because it's the one which is receiving the action. What action? Being kicked. And kicked is representing a verb. A verb is a doing word. So we are saying personal pronouns are used as subjects. So just the same sentence I've written here, instead of me writing Mwanza, I can use a personal pronoun to substitute that. I'm going to say, I kicked the ball, or we kicked the ball, or you kicked the ball, or she kicked the ball. So a personal pronoun is going to stand in place of a noun, such as me, you, or us. So that is one type of pronoun. And then another type of pronoun is called a possessive pronoun. Now, what is a possessive pronoun? When we are talking about possessive pronouns, these are pronouns which are used in place of nouns to indicate ownership. So you are using it in place of a noun to indicate ownership, to indicate that this thing belongs to you. For example, it's, and then mine, also ours, also yours. So these pronouns which you can see here, they indicate that something belongs to me or something belongs to you. Okay. For example, now we need to pay attention to this one because in rewrites, it's, these two have got different meanings. Okay, let me talk about these two. So these two pronouns we are able to see here, I mean these two words we are able to see here, have got different meanings. So this one is a possessive pronoun. It means that something belongs to me. For example, you are going to say, don't play with that book. It's for Mwanza. Which it's are you going to use? So you are going to use this one because you are talking about, or you are meaning that that thing belongs to me. But this one is just a short form of writing it is. So they are different here. It's meaning possession, it belongs to someone, but it is, for example, it is yours. So this one is another thing. So this is something that you also need to understand. Okay, so we've talked about a possessive pronoun. Also, another type of pronoun that we should be able to know is called a relative pronoun. Now, what is a relative pronoun, or what are relative pronouns? When you're talking about relative pronouns, these relate one part of a sentence to another and also stand in form, they stand in for a noun or other pronouns. So when you're talking about a relative pronoun, it's going to stand in for a noun or just another pronoun. And they're also used to relate one part of a sentence with another part of a sentence. For example, when you're talking about relative pronouns, examples that we're going to give, we have got whom, these words with a WH. Who, which, that, and whose. Okay, so these are relative pronouns. They are going to be used to stand in place of a noun or another pronoun, and they are also used to relate one part of a sentence with another part of a sentence. For example, you can say she's a superstar whom I admire very much. Okay, so here you are saying she's a superstar whom. So the whom here is standing in place of what? That superstar you admire. So a relative pronoun is going to be used to stand in place of another noun or another pronoun. In this case, she is a superstar whom I admire. Okay, you can say, uh, we can also use whose. For example, that boy whose book was stolen is going to school. That boy whose book was stolen is going to school. So you need to know which relative pronoun to use when they've given you sentences. Let me write that. That boy dash book was stolen is going to school. So in English, they are going to give you different ways. I'm going to give you whom, they are going to give you who, they are going to give you that, they are going to give you whose. So you should be able to know which one to use. That boy whom, that boy who book, that boy that, that boy that. So You need to know which one is going to, which relative pronoun is supposed to be used at this point. So that boy whose, okay, whose book, and here whose is going to mean possession. So this book we are talking about belonged to that boy. So that is why we are saying that boy whose book was stolen is going to school. So we're going to use a relative pronoun, and that relative pronoun is also showing possession. Is showing that the book we are talking about belongs to someone. So we should be able to know this because in rewrites they are going to bring different ones, and they can bring them in different forms. Okay, another type of pronoun that we should be able to know is demonstrative pronoun. Now, when you're talking about demonstrative pronouns, just from the word demonstrate, so demonstrative pronouns, these shows, okay, so to demonstrate is just to show. So these are pronouns that show. For example, this, that, these, those. So these pronouns, they just show something. For example, these are African people. So what are they doing? They are showing a country or a nation or a people. These books belong to me. Okay? Those are mangoes. We are demonstrating, we are trying to show someone, perhaps that person doesn't know. This book you are seeing is mine. You are showing, you are demonstrating. So those are demonstrative pronouns, meaning they are showing something. So apart from demonstrative pronouns, we've got also interrogative pronouns. Okay, we have got interrogative pronouns. Now, what are interrogative pronouns? Just from the word to interrogate, for example, if the police are in place, they're asking you some questions. So, or maybe you are talking to a nurse, they're asking you some questions so that they might be able to know more about your sickness before they give you medicine. So, what you are having is an interrogation, and interrogation is where someone is asking, you are answering, and you also speak, they also respond. So, that is an interrogation. So, interrogative pronouns, these seek to find out information. So when you're talking about interrogative pronouns, these are pronouns that seek to find out information. As I said, you're talking to a nurse, they want to find out something before they give you medicine. So examples of interrogative pronouns, you've got who, whom, whose, what, which. Now, how can you put these as in a sentence? Interrogative pronouns. For example, you can say who is sick, or what is paining, which part of your body is not okay. So you are trying to find out. In other words, these are more like used in a sentence, I mean in a question. Okay, so these are interrogative pronouns. And then another type of pronoun, we have got reflexive pronoun. Now when you're talking about reflective pronouns, I mean reflexive pronouns, these they refer back to the subject of the sentence. So remember, when you're talking about subject of a sentence, you've got Mwanza kicked the ball. Mwanza is the subject because it's the doer of the action. So when we're talking about reflexive pronouns, they are going to refer back. They are going to point back to the subject of a sentence. For example, he drove himself. Okay, he drove himself. So this one you are saying here, this pronoun you are saying here is referring back to the one who was driving. So it is referring back to the what? to the subject of the sentence. He drove himself. Or you can say, I drove myself. So examples of reflexive pronouns, you've got myself, himself, ourselves, yourself, yourselves, herself, itself, themselves, himself. So all those are types of pronouns. Now you need to be very careful and you need to know how to get to use these. Because if you are talking about, uh, let's say you are talking about a group of people, you are referring to a group of people. Are you going to say yourself or yourselves? So you should be able to know if you are referring to a lot of people and you are not part of those people, you are going to say yourselves. But if it is one person, you are going to say yourself. So we should be able to understand how to use these types of pronouns because they'll be brought in different rewrites, so we need to know them and how to get to use them.